Hey, it's Christy Kerner, host of Real Women, Real Happy. Joining me today is Rachel Lines from Phoenix, Arizona. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me here. Um, Tell me a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about who Rachel is and kind of what your life looks like. Let's get started with just getting to know you a bit.
Yeah, so my life and who I am has really changed like pretty dramatically, I would say, in the last like 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
Um, Before I got into wedding photography and the professional photography realm, I was a crime scene investigator with the Phoenix
What?
Police Department.
That
Yeah.
is cool.
Very, like I tell my clients, like my previous life, yeah, I'm technically from Seattle. I grew up all over the place, moved around a lot, but I grew up mainly in Seattle, like through high school. I went down to New Orleans, got my undergrad degree down at Tulane, and then I got my master's of forensic science in DC at George Washington University. And I came out here to Mesa, Arizona, following
Wait,
my career. Yeah, I was a crime scene specialist with
is that
Mesa.
was it the job that brought you to Arizona or?
It was, and it was a culture shock. Let me
Oh,
tell
that's funny.
yeah, because it was like New Orleans, DC, Seattle, and then Mesa, Arizona. Yeah, so I was a crime scene technician there, and then we moved over. Well, I went over to Phoenix PD. We call it moving to varsity, but probably don't want to tell the Mesa guys that they don't like that. But yeah, I was with the homicide unit there for about 4 years, and it was amazing. It was an amazing job, an amazing career, and but I met my husband Travis, and we got married, and we had a kid, and it turned out that 70-hour call out weeks were not really conducive to having a new baby.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, so my husband and I started like brainstorming about like being able to stay at home more and have a more flexible job, and what I would do if I could just do anything, like if I could really just like follow a passion that I wanted to follow. And we were on a vacation up in Montana, and I was like, okay, are you ready for this? Like, I want to be a wedding photographer. And he was like, great. I mean, my husband is, I am extremely lucky that he's not only a huge support to me, like financially speaking, and just in my life, and he's an amazing father to my son. But he pushes me, and he lets me be crazy and
I like
follow
that.
and just see, like
Wow,
just
that's
see what's going to
awesome.
happen.
I think
Um,
everybody needs someone like that. At least the world would definitely be a better place if everyone had someone like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so he has just been my biggest support. And yeah, making that transition was a funny story. My amazing sister-in-law, Jana, she was getting married down in Cabo, and I was still a crime scene investigator at the time, but I was dabbling in like hobby photography. And she said, well, you should shoot my wedding. And I was like, are you out of your mind?
Wow,
Totally different, totally
that's
different.
trusting.
Yeah. And so I was like, no, 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 I can't. But I brought my gear down, and she was like, you have your gear here anyway. I have another photographer, but just see, like shoot second and try it. And I did, and I just fell in love with it like immediately. It was so much
Wow.
fun. Yeah. And so that's when I kind of got the bug for it. And then my amazing husband Travis was like, yeah, let's do this. So that was about, I guess it'll be 5 years ago in November.
Wow.
I started doing it professionally. And yeah, like
Well,
that's,
fast forward to today, you're creeping up on like 20,000 followers on Instagram. You've got a thing going on now with all this.
I think so. It's interesting as an artist because when you first start to use your art in business, it's interesting because you're still like, you never stop growing as an artist, but especially when you're looking at, okay, like I'm marketing my skills to clients, what do clients want? And in Arizona, um, in my opinion, we have a very large population of like fine art film photographers, And so I don't know if it's like the desert and pastels and all of that, or Jose Villa and Martha Stewart. I don't know. I don't know what caused the trend, but it's, you know, everything is very light and airy, and it's beautiful. It is very beautiful. But my style is very different than that. I'm more attracted to fashion photography and things that are a little more editorial, so maybe a little bit more avant-garde and couture. And I thought, you know, there gotta be other women like me here in Arizona that are thinking like, I want New York, I want LA, I want that feel of like glamour and fashiony, and I want to feel like a movie star on my big day, as opposed to like, you know, Jane Eyre, like out with, you know, like, on Wuthering Heights or whatever. I mean, like, we get it, like, it's beautiful, it's just different. And so yeah, so that's where my style started to go, and I found some amazing outlets for that creativity, and I really find that a lot of the brides or soon to be brides here really respond to that and love it. And so that's become my client base. Yeah, it's really been growing. So it's super.
So I know we're going to talk in a minute about building happiness, but I love business. So let's just detour for one hot minute here. So yes. If you like give a piece of advice to someone that was kind of in the shoes that you were in 4 or 5 years ago, where they're, you know, considering stepping out on their own. Maybe it might not be a life situation that forces it, but maybe they just really love photography and are going to start with a side hustle, you know? I mean, what advice would you give, like top 1 or 2 tips for someone that would be stepping out into that kind of a realm in today's world?
Yeah, I would say my number 1 tip is be gentle with yourself. Like, I mean, because people who are business, and you know this, like people who are business entrepreneurs and who are small business owners and people who are branching out on their own are very brave, first of all, and they're obviously very dedicated and have a vision in their mind of what they want it to be. And maybe they don't have a ton of patience. At least I don't have a ton of patience. And so it's very—
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Right? Right? I mean, I feel like it's very easy to want all of your hard work and all of your passion to show through immediately and like have immediate success immediately, or like maybe not, you know, like financial success, but you want other people to see it immediately. And I would just say to find that to have that happiness element. And I'm not going to call it a balance because I feel like that is setting the bar way, way high. Like, say like any of us, especially women who are mothers or who are not mothers, like any woman, to say like, oh, I have this perfect balance in my life. No, like journaling, you like feel good. Like when you get through a day and you're like, okay, I gave my business this amount of time. I gave my family this amount of time. I gave myself this amount of time. Like I juggled well today, and I'm like I'm content, right? So I just think being gentle with yourself is really important. Being patient, understanding that it doesn't matter like how right you are. It doesn't matter how passionate you are, and like it's going to get there. But you have to have patience with yourself and with the growth process. You got to feed the beast. You got to do all of that. And I think it's really easy to get frustrated and to get impatient with it. But I would just say, like, know that going into it and check yourself so you don't end up going crazy pants just because it's not happening as fast as you want it. That would be my number 1 tip.
Yeah. I like it. That's great advice. Thank you, Rachel. I like that. All right, so shifting gears, as you know, what we are hoping to do through this series is to give women a chance to step back and think about how they can create more happiness in their life. So when I say happiness, I'm really, you know, I'm not looking for a ongoing state of elation 24/7 where you're like jumping up and down. I'm really talking about like that kind of inner peace, that just feeling of balance. Well, as it pertains to the situation, but that feeling of like, okay, this is right by me, you know, I'm enjoying this is filling my needs and my goals and my desires, and it's taking care of others in the way that I find balance or whatever. So what's an area in your life that you feel like you have been able to create that kind of zen for yourself?
I would say I'm very close to that with my business.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's still growing and it's still like very new compared to the other amazing like photography gurus that are out there. But I've found that I think about I think about my life and the facets that make up my life as like spheres. I don't know. This is probably like a very weird visual artist thing.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
about
hear it.
to
Let's
tell
hear
you.
it.
But so I've noticed now, like I'm 37 now. I'm getting to that 40 mark, and I feel like I've figured out now, like I know myself when one of those spheres is too big or too small, if I'm paying like too much attention to it or not enough. And I think, especially for business people, we tend to think about our careers or our jobs, or well, I think we tend to think about those a lot, and so we give those a lot of attention. And those, so
True.
to me, right, like those, that sphere gets really, really big.
Right.
And if I do that too much, then I don't take care of myself physically. I don't, like I don't go hiking. I'm sitting there like working on a photo, or I'm working on, a client's portfolio. And I'm like, well, I don't need to hike today, or I don't need to run today, or I don't need to meditate today. Or, my son's getting home and that's supposed to be his time, but I see if, my husband can take him for a while. So if we just finish this. I've gotten to the point now in my life where I know when that's happening and I check it. It's not comfortable, like at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's difficult to pull
Yeah.
yourself away from like what you're naturally drawn to spending energy on.
Right.
But if you feel icky, like if you feel like you're getting exhausted and you're frustrated, for me it's because I'm spending too much time in that
Mm.
sphere and I need to back it up.
Interesting. Okay, so let me try something on you here. So from in my experience, I find that when I'm drawn to something that I would later regret having given that much of myself to, like you're describing with this, if I really backtrack it, I find that there was some kind of emotional payoff that I was looking for from that. So sometimes in work, it's easy to point out because it's the productivity element. I feel like I'm gaining value for myself because I can point to something I did, or it's, feeling like I'm a valuable contributor because I created something for someone, or, whatever it is. It's like there's an emotional payoff to producing or doing something over here. And I have to be comfortable enough in myself to let that go and value this over here, the proper behavior, right? And for me, that's what I've always found is how I get stuck in a trap like that, is if there's something that I'm not fully realizing is kind of going on behind the scenes. And I have to, one way or another, make peace with that before I can really let that voice go down enough and choose to exhibit the behavior that I know will make me feel better in the long term, not the short term. So
Yeah.
do you think there was anything like that for you in doing that, or was it just more of a natural progression?
Oh yeah, totally. My mom will probably tell you, like, ever since I was a little girl, I am like very sensitive about my art because I did that. And so getting that kind of praise, whether it's from a
Sure.
publisher or whether it's from a client, about my art is a definite like motivating factor for me.
That makes sense.
And I will definitely bribe and trick myself with like technology to force that somewhere else, so like meditation has become a really big part for me. Like it works for me. And Headspace is the app that I use, and I'm not like getting up on a soapbox about it or anything, but with modern technology, like I have an app, right? And there are goals that are built into that. And I'm like, okay, can I do 15 days straight and not miss a day, like meditating? And like
Yeah.
that little badge, I'm like, ha ha ha.
Oh my gosh, gamification is so powerful.
Like
Yes.
in my own brain. So I will totally use any trick that I need to on myself to give myself that kind of satisfaction in one of those other spheres, not just in my art, not just in the business and getting that gratification from, excited clients or, happy customers. So yeah.
I kind of like that because I always tend to go toward, I need to kind of solve, if you will, or fix that deeper wound in myself in order to be able to not be driven by it, right? But I think it's really nice to give yourself the grace of time, because it turns out those things don't solve real fast in life. They just kind of level up as years go by, right? So giving yourself the grace of being able to be like, okay, well, let's leverage this within myself and just spread it out and find ways to take what is driving me and put the reward in lots of places so that I can use where I'm at today to be able to have the life and peace that I want. So
absolutely.
And I think onto something there. I like it.
Yeah, and it's totally fine. I feel like it's I feel like there's so much pressure, right, to be like self-actualized and this person that has all the balance down and like does all of that. I feel like it's totally fine to realize that there are different elements of yourself that you like and elements that you want to change. And the elements that you want to change, like no rules, girl. Like just do it. Like trick yourself, bribe yourself, whatever you gotta do. I bribe my kid all the time. So I mean, if it takes that, like just embrace that. Like know that there's a part of yourself, that ego, that is understanding where you want to be, and whatever that ego has to do to trick your id into changing, do it. It's fine. It's totally fine.
I love it.
You have those elements of yourself that you want to change. I feel like you have to embrace that to be able to get to that point where you feel like, okay, I juggled really well today. Like only dropped like 2 balls today. I feel really good.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I love it. I think that's terrific, Rachel. Good thinking. I love it. So I guess kind of in summary, any final thoughts? I mean, I feel like you've given us some good tips just throughout the conversation here, the Headspace meditation app, and just giving yourself that grace and finding ways to work with the motivation that you have to create the level of peace that you want in lots of areas. But, is there anything else that comes to mind, if especially someone looking to kind of balance their career versus home life and all the obligations that you have as a woman in your household? Any final thoughts on anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would say just understand that it really doesn't matter the path that we take as women. We're like always going to have that guilt. Like it doesn't matter, right? And I don't care who you're looking at. You could be looking at like the CEO of Amazon or Facebook or whatever, or the stay-at-home mom that has decided like that's where she wants to be. I understand that all women, in my experience, every single woman that I've met is going to feel that guilt one way or the other. And I have it. I mean, I had it this weekend. I had this beautiful wedding that I went and shot, and I was super excited about it. But it's like the 5th weekend in a row that I've been shooting, and my 5-year-old is 5 now. I mean, he's 5 going on 30. This kid, but he knows now, and
yeah.
It's just supposed to be Wyatt time, Mom. Like, what's the deal? Like, you don't have another wedding, And so I'm gonna feel that twinge of guilt.
Yeah, sure.
But I also know that when I was leaving my forensic career, and there was a time when I was just mom, I had career-driven guilt, right? Where it was like, okay, but this isn't who I am. This isn't the only part of me, and I don't want my son to just know me as just mom. That was like a huge fear I had.
Wow.
Kids, yeah. I mean, now it's like totally different and worked and just around. But I thought like this is who I am, and I want him to know me as that. I want him to know me as a strong woman, and that I have a career, and I have like dreams and passions that I want to pursue, and they're just as important as what his dad's doing. So give yourself some grace, give yourself a moment, and just realize like that guilt is like a global thing that I feel like all women feel. It doesn't matter what track you're in. So
Yeah.
when you feel that, just like feel it and say, yeah, that's okay. But this is the path that I've chosen. These are the good reasons for it. So I'm gonna put a pin in that and not dwell on the fact that I can't be everything to everybody at every minute of the day. You know, you can try to
That's
balance
fair.
it out, yeah, and you can try to give the right amount of time to those fears, and it's important to think about that. But it's also important to just give yourself a break and realize that all women are going to feel this, because we're amazing and we care about other people. And so
Yeah.
that's what it
Sure.
is. We have that empathy, and we have that sympathy. So, just give yourself a break. Like
I like
that
it.
I think is going to give you the strength and the rejuvenation to be able to build that business and, or go back to that career or wake up with those kids, Hey,
All of the above are challenging in
yeah,
their own special way.
yeah. Just give
Very
yourself
good.
a little bit of grace. That's what I
All
say.
right. I like it. Very nice, Rachel. Well, thank you so much. I feel like you have provided a lot of wisdom here tonight and really appreciate you taking the time. So
Oh, of
thank you
course.
for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, that is it for today. Bye bye.